Hey, I'm back. This is Chandler for Melda Production, and today I want to show you something really special, and it's a new plugin that actually hasn't been released yet. It's MTurboAmp. Basically, it's something that allows you to create your own distortion, and in some cases, your own guitar amps, which I'm going to try to show today. I don't want to do a whole overview of it because it'll take too long, and as I said, it's not out yet. I'm not even sure it's technically not even beta. It's more, I guess, alpha. But I figured some people want to actually make amps for it, so that way when it's released, there are actually amps and things in there that people can use. So I'm making it for them, and I'll do this in a series, but I want to start off with some clean amps. So I'm going to try to teach you how to make a clean guitar amp here, and hopefully you can take these and, do whatever you want. Usually I think it's better to maybe take somebody else's idea and just tweak it a bit, as opposed to starting from scratch. But if you want to start from scratch, that's what I'm showing today. I have a DI fix before everything. I have M cabinet afterwards because M guitar amp doesn't have any kind of speaker simulation, so you need something afterwards. I'm using M cabinet, but you could use a IR or something else if you wanted to. So let's open it up. So we open it up here, and you see on the side it has these devices. These I think are all I made except for this, the Wildebeest. I didn't make that one, but the rest of them are all stuff I'm working on. Some of them are works in progress. Some of them are pretty much done. The GUIs might be changed later. Maybe you think like, oh, these look terrible. Well, sorry, I made them myself, and I'm not a graphic designer. They might be changed in the final version. But anyways, what we're gonna do is a low gain amp. So something like this. So I want to show you how to make something at least similar to this. I have another one here, this. So something maybe a mix between these two. I wanted to do something like an American clean sound, and I have two different ones. These have slightly different things in there. You see this one actually has a tremolo in it. They both have the same reverb, but the gain and the tone stacks are a little bit different. So I'm going to separate this, or try to separate it. I'm going to first try to show you how to do the gain staging, and then I'll go into the tone stack. By tone stack, I mean the bass, middle, treble controls, and then maybe I'll do the presence afterwards. The things like the reverb, or you see like the bright switch, I probably will show that in a separate video, and all this advanced stuff down here. So let's get started. So I have this in this just default patch here. And if you need to go in, actually you have to go into the edit screen if you want to see it. So we have three different tabs here. The first is the input EQ. So this is the EQ before we get into the distortion. We have the distortion. So you see here we have multiple stages here. You can use up to 6. Of course, using more will use more CPU. And then we have the output stage. So you can shape it after the distortion. So, as I said, let's get started first. I'm going to show you how to, do the gain staging and everything first. So, one of the first things I want to do is I want to add a volume knob because it can get loud. And actually, even before that, you might want to make sure you have the limiter on because, as I said, if you're not careful, this can get really loud. So make sure that's on. Don't want to hurt yourself or blow out your ears. Next, I'm going to click Learn here, go to the gain out, just move that around, and I'm going to label this as volume. And let's put this in a group called amp. And I'll click same row. Even though there's nothing in here, it will be important later because you want everything to be in a straight line. At least I do for this. And so we have our volume control here. If you don't like this as percentages, you can change this here to first parameter like that. Okay. Now let's do the gain. I have the gain here. Let's click learn and move this up and down. And I don't want this to go, all the way, to negative 40 and 40. I usually like to set this between like 25 and maybe 15 or so. So I'll do negative 15 for the normal value and 15 for the max value, which means it should be sitting right at 0 there. And so actually one more thing I should do is I think of these two as, or actually all of these before the last stage, as kind of like preamp. And then I use the last one as kind of like a power amp here. So if I play these all together, let me turn the volume down. Let's hear what it sounds like. It probably will sound bad. You can hear a little bit of grit. If I turn down the volume and turn up the gain, you should get more. Okay. So for me, like, it's a bit too much gain. Actually, I forgot to label this as gain. Make sure this is called amp. Put them in the same row. And we have that there. I can lower the gain later because I really don't want that much, and also it doesn't sound good right now. But let's look at the main screen, the easy screen. And you see here we have something called amp, and we have a volume knob, a gain knob and a volume knob. But we need to actually do some stuff here. So let's keep going and changing these gain stages. So let's move this down. You see here we have lots of stuff in here, gain in, gain out, etc. I want to go and change this from clip to, let's say, like soft 3. This is the type of clipping and distortion you're going to get. These are more like hard clipping modes. These are soft clipping modes. I want to choose this 3. Maybe move this to 3 or 4 and move this to clip 1. So this should bring the distortion down quite a bit. Bring the volume down. Gain up. So you see that like now there's some gain, but it's not as extreme as it was before. Now, another thing you probably notice, wow, it sounds terrible. It sounds like there's a blanket over the sound. We don't want that. We want it to sound like a guitar amp. That's too dull. And one of the things that's causing that is the tone stack. And the tone stack is going to be your bass, middle, and treble controls. We want to add those in there, and you're probably thinking, okay, well, how can I do that? There's actually 2 ways. In more of like a British design, the tone stack comes after the distortion, so I'd want to do it in here. But for an American design, it's going to come before the distortion, so I'm going to use the input EQ. Although you could use the first stage here, I like using the input EQ just because I can see everything a little bit better graphically like this. Now, those other ones I showed you before, those can be used as somewhat of a template. One thing I like to do is I like to add or actually cut some of the lows, and you can use this HP filter, or I can use one of these like this. I prefer to use this one just because I can control the Q, so I can go into here and use, let's see, high pass. That slope is way too strong. Let's try, I guess, 2, and I can move that up wherever I want. If you're wondering like, okay, what's the lowest frequency on guitar? I can go into here, just double click it easily and find like, oh, okay, there's 41. I think that's actually octave below. I think 82.4 should be the lowest string on the guitar, but I actually want it a little bit lower than that, and also you can adjust the Q to see. Now, like I said before, it's sometimes easier to tweak other people's designs, so this is actually my design, but I'll show you what I did here. If I go into 1 here, I think, oh, 55 and 25 Q. A great thing is I can just go here, copy it, go into my design C, and just paste. See, did everything for me. So I have the exact same one. And I can do the same thing with the top end. For this one, I think, it's okay. I'll just cut it here. Oh, maybe 9,000. So that way you're not getting lots of hiss. One reason I like to do this is sometimes a 60 cycle hum, or like there's other things like hitting on the guitar that will just cause lots of that low end garbage to come through. So cutting this out sometimes helps. But of course, set that to taste. If you're wondering, like, okay, now where do I get the values for the bass, middle, and treble controls? Of course, you can make up anything you want, and I think one of the great things about MTurboAmp is the fact that you can affect that and create something completely new that's not based on anything. But if you kind of want a starting point, I'll show you. If you go online and you look here, TSC Tone Stack Calculator, just put that into Google, and it'll come here. I'll just use TSC on the web. And this will show you lots of different tone stacks. So I want something American, so let's try this one. Classic, just click on it. Now you see here, on the right here, this is what a tone stack looks like. Before I did this, I was under the impression that, when you set the controls, the bass, middle, and treble controls, everything would be flat, but it's actually not. When you have that lots of mids in there, and it's flat, it actually doesn't sound good on guitar. It sounds like what I showed you with a blanket over it. But by scooping them, it sounds a little bit better. So we can use our bass control. This RB is bass. You can see how it moves like that. Here's our middle control. See how that moves? Even when it's all the way up, it's still not flat. And then here is the treble control. Okay, so we can just add these in. You can see it graphically, so you can kind of take a guess at what it's doing. And of course, if you don't like these, you can change them, and you don't have to get them perfect. I already did this before, so I have 3 here, like this, and I'm just gonna copy it, go into here, 3, and I'm gonna paste it. It's actually somewhat important I use the same number of EQ node, because I'm gonna attach this later. So you see bass here, I can go the same thing, copy this, and then I paste it here. Change this just to amp. Okay, everything's in the same row. And you see this control, it's adjusting the gain for this node and also the Q factor. If you don't like that, you can get rid of the Q factor if you think, oh, it doesn't sound good. And you can adjust these if you think like, oh, it's going from -15 to +6. I don't like that. I think it should go up higher, or I think it should go up lower, etc. You can do things with that. But let's go in here. I don't want to spend too much time doing this. Let me go quickly. Hopefully you understand the idea, and you can see the values here if you want to try to do this yourself. So there's the middle control. Go into here, paste it. Those are the values. I'm going to go back here to middle. Hopefully you can see the values here. I'm going to copy it from this other amp. Then I'm going to go into here and then paste it in here. Make sure I change this to amp. You can see the values, hopefully. Another thing I should mention is, you see this is lit up here. What this does is changes the transformation shape. So if I, actually it's almost linear now. I don't know why. Why is that on? Anyways, if you look at this here and you look at the middle now, see it's going linearly. If I changed it like this, you see like, this is the middle, and if I move it up here, now it barely moves. When I move it down, it moves really fast. So you can adjust this slope however you want, and it'll affect how the control moves. That's kind of up to you. Let me set it like this, just so it's a little bit different than what the other one is. I don't want to copy the exact same amp. And then here I have node 6. I'll copy it and go back here, node 6. I'm going to paste this here. Go back, do another copy and paste job. Hopefully you can see all this. Like I said, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but just pause the video if you didn't catch everything, and I'll show you. That's what it looks like inside of the treble. And there are the values for the Q. Of course, experiment with this yourself, because you might find like, hey, this doesn't sound exactly right, or whatever. So now with this on there and our tone controls in there, let's hear what it sounds like. Now let's hear it with this off. I can just turn this to completely dry. So the volume's very different, but let me try to. Okay, but you get the idea. Cutting out that mid gets rid of that boxiness and that sound like there's a blanket over the sound. And of course, now we can adjust it however we want. So adding, actually, I should check it. Let's try adding the bass. Take away the bass. Seems like that's working perfectly. Let's try the middle. Take away the middle. Oh, sorry. Ugh, playing's terrible. Add middle. Seems like that's working. And let's try the treble. Take away the treble. Add the treble. That one's kind of okay. There's things I might want to change about that, but that's up to you. So I think, okay, I could add more here. But another thing that I want to talk about is actually changing the value of the frequencies can make a big difference. See, here it's all the way up at 3,500. Actually, let's move this all the way up. What if I move this down to, let's say, 2000? I actually like that better. I can even move it down to, let's say, 1500. And now I'm, getting more of those treble frequencies, which is what I want. There's one more thing. It still sounds a little bit dark, and that's probably because I don't have any presence. So let's add a presence control. Let's try, I can do 4000. So what I did with some of the other ones, like this, is I just used, what's it, presence here. Ooh, oh no, wrong one. This one I used presence. So let's look in the distortion. So the last part here where I'm using this is kind of like a power amp. You see here I have this at 2000 and I'm moving this up and down, number 4. So all I need to do is go into here. Oh, wrong one. I'm getting confused here. Sorry about that. Click learn. Move this up. That's too much actually. Now we see this. I'm gonna go 12 decibels is the max. Pres for amp. Make sure it's the same row. I think all these should be the same row. Now it has this here. One thing I like to change about this is the Q factor and the frequency. So if I go in here, you see the Q factor is, this one. I have 0.35 and it's 2000. Let's try that a little bit different. So let's try the same 0.35 for the Q, but let's make this 3000, just so I can make the frequencies a little bit different. And now let's try it again. I'm changing the wrong ones. I should have started with A, my fault. So 0.35, here we go. Turn it down. Turn it up. Now to me, that's making a big difference. Now, of course, you can adjust those however you want. And one other thing you might have noticed for the other ones were, what if I wanted to add some kind of like distortion at the end here? Can I do that? And you actually can. So what I can do and what I've done before is learn, and I turn input gain up, output gain down, like that. And just label this power amp, label this amp, put in the same row, and I'll make the input and outputs the same. Let's try 6, I guess. And let's try this 0 and -6. So the input will increase and the output will decrease. So I can set this defaulted at 0. So now it's set at default 50%. Now 0%, like that. And so this is what it sounds like now. Still kind of clean. Let me try it with different pickup selection. And you hear it coming through there a little bit. Actually, let me do it more just so I can demonstrate what it's doing. You're probably like, I barely hear anything. Didn't do anything. So let's go here, -12, like this. Like that. I kind of exaggerated. That's probably too much, but you get the idea. And so that's it for the most part of this. Some other bells and whistles I might want to add in here, and actually I did in other amps, but this gives you an idea of what you can do and how to make a clean sounding amp. Now let's say you're like, I want to make something a little bit different. The first thing I would tell you to change are change these values here for the tone stack. So now I have this at 450. Let's move this down. Let's try 200. And I'll let you hear what it sounds like. So 450. 200. Here, all those boxy frequencies came back. Now let's move it up to, let's say, 700. So this 200. So now you hear more of the thickness of it. Playing's not so great today, but you get the idea. So for more of a jazz sound, I might want it higher. So maybe not that high, but let's try like maybe 600. Don't want 666. Let's see. That I think like, oh, okay, that's pretty good for jazz. That's nice and thick. But let's say for something else, like maybe like more of a funk sound, try 250. That may be a little bit low. That's too low. A little bit more, 300 something. That's better. And of course, you can do the same thing with the bass and treble controls. By doing that, you can achieve all sorts of different sounds. And in the future, I'll show you how you can take that and use it with more high gain. So this is more like a low gain way to do it, but you can do it a slightly different way if you want more higher gain sounds. I'll show you how to do medium gain and then a high gain sound later. So if you like this, give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, leave those down below and check out all the other plugins at meldaproduction.com. Till next time, see you.